Hey, what's up, Guardians? TBL here, and welcome back to the next part of our Update 2.4.0 weapon discussion. I believe in the last video we discussed the changes that have come to pulse rifles, and in this one we're going to be talking sidearms and rocket launchers. There have been a lot of changes to the sidearm class, and we're going to be talking a little bit about whether or not it's going to actually make them competitive versus sniper rifles and shotguns in particular. We know shotguns are literally the top of the meta right now, especially now that sniper rifles have been nerfed. So we're going to let you know what we think of some of these changes. Alright, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope you all enjoy. But alright, moving on, next up we have sidearms, which you're going to see a couple of changes, quite a few. I think the most number of changes on this list of weapon stuff. And they state that when evaluating player loadout data across the game, we can see that sidearms are obviously being underutilized. With 2.4.0, we aim to change that, pushing sidearms to shoot further, faster, and more predictably. One, they've unified damage across all sidearm types. I thought that was really interesting. And to achieve that, they've increased damage for existing Haka sidearm families by 3% for the lowest rate of fire archetypes and 7% for the higher rate of fire archetypes. They've also decreased damage for non-hit scan sidearms by 5%, which would basically mean the Vestian Dynasty and the Queen's Choice sidearms, which are the only two that don't do hit scan, which is why they're so consistent if you actually use them in the Crucible. They got a 5% damage nerf to bring them in line. I guess they're trying to level out the damage level across all the sidearm archetypes, which is interesting choice there.
They could just make all sidearms not hit scan.
Apparently that broke them. Last year when we had the House of Wolves event, the sidearms there they weren't not House of Wolves event, the Taken King event. The sidearms there were not hit scan, and apparently they were very, very, very strong. And it looks like Bungie's afraid of tipping things too far towards that, which is
it would give players a close range option that would challenge
a non-shotgun person. Yeah,
it would give us some options. If you want variety in your game, give us more options.
Yeah, something to use to counter shotguns, and that's in between fusion rifle ranges. But additionally, they're granting a minor extension of damage fall-off points for sidearms across the board. They're going to have basically an extra 0.5 meters of range. A minor increase of stability for sidearms across the board. They'll be more stable overall. That's the big change there. That's the only thing I was really looking for with sidearms. I just wanted them to be a bit more stable. And they've added a damage bonus in PvE. They'll deal about 20 to 30% more damage based on combatant tier. So against tier 1 red bar enemies, you're going to be dealing about 30% more damage. On tier 2 yellow bars, you're going to be dealing about 20% more damage. That's cool.
Does this buff look familiar, Sean?
Yes. Yes.
The Dark Below?
We saw a little bit of that in the Dark Below, yeah. You're right. And then later with shotguns. And then shotguns got nerfed in PvE. Yep. And I didn't like it.
Sad boys.
I didn't like it at all. But it's good, because, you know, sidearms, if they already don't see much use in PvP, they barely see any, if at any at all, use in PvE. Like, who goes into a raid with a sidearm? Other than me. Rip.
I can't name anyone.
Exactly. So yeah, I'll take a PvE bonus for them. To accommodate 2 new faster firing sidearm families releasing in Rise of Iron, all current sidearm rate of fire bars will be slightly shorter. Now, this doesn't actually have an in-game effect. They're just changing the way the stat bar looks to help differentiate between the rate of fires of the different archetype sidearms that we're going to be getting in Rise of Iron. There's no actual gameplay change there.
It's just a UI change.
It's just a UI change. Alright, next up we have rocket launchers, which are going to see it's going to see a buff and a nerf. And before we even go any further, you all know what's going to get nerfed. The only thing that ever gets nerfed on rocket launchers. Bungie states that while satisfying, well, super satisfying, cluster bombs are not always super reliable. At times, the bombs land inches out of their effective range and hit for single point damages. On the other hand, grenades and horseshoes is by and far the most popular rocket launcher perk. While decreasing the chance that a rocket misses, it also removes or reduces many of the interesting combat prediction elements that make the weapon archetype interesting to play. Basically, they don't like that everybody uses grenades and horseshoes.
Cry more, Bungie.
Cry more. Make the other rocket launcher perks better. Stop giving me stuff like single point sling on my rockets. I don't need that. I don't need stability boosters on my rockets.
New create new and interesting perks.
Give us an alternative.
Rocket launcher.
Exactly.
Give us some new perks to put on our rockets so we have an incentive not to pick grenades and horseshoes. Give us something that, I don't know, decreases the time between shots. Decreases like the I guess increases our fire rate, or give us a alternative to field scouts, or give us a better clown cartridge or something. You know, something to really push us away from grenades and horseshoes rather than just nerfing it and buffing cluster bombs, which is still going to put out those single points of damage because the cluster bomb's radius is still butt cheeks. Like the cluster bomb itself, not the effective range. The cluster bomb itself is still going to put out those single points of damage. Like buffing the actual range at which it expands outward, you can still get out of a cluster bomb pretty easily. All you got to do is just jump.
Just jump. I mean, or if you're a hunter, shade step right out of that thing.
It really is not going to incentivize the use of cluster bombs. No one's going to want it unless they just want a mob clear. And in that case, we got year 3 Gallowhorn, so the hell would I want to use anything else in PvE? You really created a conundrum with rockets because you for one have not given us any unique perks for them aside from grenades and horseshoes and cluster bombs. Everything else is pretty, I guess, in the flex tiers, really not worth using. Everyone's just going to use the same things.
The thing is, there's no viable alternative to grenades and horseshoes because for most people are using rockets in PvP, and that's the most effective way to land a rocket shot on somebody. There's no other perk that really comes close. The answer to this isn't nerfing grenades and horseshoes so people stop using it. Your goal should never be to get people to stop using a perk you created so that people would use it. Your goal should be to have other perks available on that weapon that tantalize people, that titillate them and make them want to use those other perks. You have to create other perks that are as good as grenades and horseshoes. You know what I would love? A perk that maybe sacrifices blast radius or velocity, maybe both, but gives you an extra rocket. I would love that.
Or creates a bigger blast radius.
Or something that sacrifices velocity for a bigger blast radius. Just anything interesting. And that's just this has kind of been the way Bungie's balanced for the longest time now, and I really don't understand most of it.
It's not going to change anything either. People are still going to opt for the grenades and horseshoes because it's the most convenient. When you shoot a rocket, you can be like, okay, that's probably going to hit someone that's on the flag. I can move on and focus on something else, which it will. It's grenades and horseshoes. It's got a big radius. And you only nerfed it by 0.3 meters. That's not a whole lot. Grenades and horseshoes is arguably what shot package was to shotguns. It's the de facto perk that everyone will gravitate towards because it's the best perk for that weapon. No matter what rocket you have, low velocity, low blast radius, high blast radius, everyone is going to want grenades and horseshoes for their rocket. It's just the nature.
It's just the best perk
of the class.
The best perk available for it.
You're
other than tripod.
Tripod would be good if we had field scout.
Yeah, rip. Well, let's actually talk about some of these changes here. So what they've done to make cluster bombs more reliable and grenades and horseshoes less effective is they've increased the effective range on the explosions for the cluster bomb perk. We don't know how large it's going to be. I imagine it's probably not going to be that big. It's probably not going to be like Nova Bomb size when you're running scatter. And grenades and horseshoes, the perk has had its activation radius reduced from 1.3 meters to 1 meters. This will not affect Truth, by the way. Truth is still going to have its crazy wide grenades and horseshoes a proc meter. So people are probably just going to go back to using that. If they aren't already still just using that in PvP.
Yeah.
Use Truth. It's still the best heavy. And, I mean, I'm glad that they're buffing Cluster Bomb. I don't think nerfing grenades and horseshoes further is the way to do this. That clearly didn't work with the Taken King when they nerfed it. I don't remember what the radius was before Taken King. It was wider. It was quite a bit wider. But people still use it. It was still the #1 most wanted perk on a rocket in Taken King, and it's probably still going to be the #1 most wanted perk on a rocket in the Rise of Iron. But there you go. Cluster Bombs getting an increase. Hopefully that actually does something for them. Because I'd like to be able to use cluster bombs in PvE. If you remember, the Hezen Vengeance had cluster bombs, and people used to call it the mini Yallarhorn, because if you could actually land all those clusters on top of an enemy, they dealt a fair amount of damage. The problem is, they bounce too far away, or they don't bounce far enough, and they're so far away they barely deal any damage at all. We'll have to see. Alright, moving on to the next heavy weapon. We've got one change coming to the machine gun class, and overall I'm pretty happy for this. I wish we could get some more ammo for our machine guns, but that would be tied into something like Field Scout. But anyways, Bungie says that the high rate of fire family of machine guns really hits the fantasy when it comes to face-melting crowd control weapons. Increasing their DPS will also help them shine in other scenarios as well, like boss battles. So, they're going to be increasing the damage on the highest rate of fire machine gun family by 4%. This is stuff like the variable, super good advice. You know, those machine guns with super high rate of fires that you usually shard immediately, those are getting a base 4% damage increase, and I'm super happy about it. The high rate of fire machine guns are actually some of my favorite. I love the variable. I have a really nicely rolled one that's literally perfectly stable and just snaps directly to people's heads because of aim assist. And of course, super good advice. I cannot sing the praises of that gun enough. It's had a major turnaround since December, and it's probably one of my favorite heavy weapons to run around with now. It's just a fun weapon. But yeah, 4% damage increase to high rate of fire machine guns. Do you even use that archetype, John?
I do not. I do not use that archetype.
Do it.
If I had my corrective measure.
Yeah, corrective measure. That'd be nice to have in year 2, wouldn't it?
Also, I looked up what the grenades and horseshoes change was from before Taken King. It went from 2 meters to 1.3 meters.
Jeez.
So they nerfed it hard back in Taken King.
So it'll now be half of what it used to be in 1.0.
Exactly.
Jeez, grenades and horseshoes got bodied.
People still use it though.
Yeah, because it's still the best perk on rockets. It's the best perk to get.
Best perk.
But alright, there we go. That pretty much concluded our discussion on the changes that have come to sidearms and the heavy class of weapons. Overall, I think sidearms have had some good changes. I don't think it'll be enough, especially after playing now after the patch in private matches and in public matches. I don't think it's quite enough to curb me away from using my Party Crasher or really any other big high impact shotgun in the Crucible right now, but some sidearms are performing pretty well. I've got a Jabber Hockey that I've really been enjoying using, and the Trespasser, you guys saw it a little bit in this video. I got to play with it on Jay's account, and that thing, I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's not the best secondary out there, it's not OP or anything, but it is a very fun weapon, so who knows, we'll get to see. Haven't had a chance to test out cluster bombs yet, but it's probably not going to be as good as grenades and horseshoes. But alright, that's it for this discussion video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to let me know how you feel about these changes down in the comment section below. You guys have had a couple of days to play around with the update now. Let me know what you think. That's going to be it for this one, guys. As always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.